Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We turn over our focus to athletics. With little over a year to go until the start of the rescheduled Tokyo 2020 Olympics, a recent survey by Kyodo News Agency indicates that 3/4 of Japanese do not want the Games to be held. The survey showed that 36.4% of respondents support a further delay of the Games. 33.7% think the flagship event should be cancelled altogether. Together, both those groups are projecting a negative view about the Olympics. Only about 24% of respondents had a positive view, wanting the Games to be held in the rescheduled slot. So Lance, I love to call you King Olympics, and I give you horse racing as well. But where the Olympics is concerned, what's your take on it? Should we reschedule? Should we cancel? Should we postpone? Just based on what the voters are saying, of course.
Well, it is very clear that there are a lot of people in Tokyo who are at this moment unhappy with the Olympics being staged, even in July 2021. And that says a lot. Now, there is a lot of time between now and July 24th for the rescheduled start of the Tokyo Games. So, in my opinion, it's too early to make a conclusive call on what should be done. Based on the trajectory of the COVID-19 and how it is spreading and how it is being contained, there are varying stories all over the world about, how it is being contained. Some territories are a lot more successful than others. The uneasy story for me is that in Tokyo itself, the numbers have been going up in recent weeks. Again, though, we are still more than a year away from the Olympic Games. So any discussion on that regarding, a cancellation of the Olympic Games for 2021, in my estimation, is premature at the moment because a lot can still happen between now and then. I would say, though, that based on the trajectory, I think we should prepare ourselves for the possibility that the Olympics won't happen next year either, because the COVID-19 issue is a serious issue, and it will not just disappear. That is the thing that we've got to accept, that it is not just going to disappear. Everyone is waiting on the vaccine and so on. We are not sure when that will come and how widely available it will be to everyone. So it is a real problem, and I don't think we should, at this point, feel conclusively that the Olympics will be on or off next year. Any one of those developments could actually happen.
Lance, do you think that those taking the survey, they think that the government, especially the Japanese government, could utilize the money to help the situation right now, and maybe that staging an Olympics is just a waste of money right now? Or do you think that they think bringing in people from different parts of the world will just create more harm in their country?
Well, the fact is a lot of money has already been spent. So the budget and the cost of staging the Olympic Games for Tokyo City is already in train. Yes, there is an additional and a humongous cost to actually see the game actualized in 2021. So, you will always have the view that, the money could be spent elsewhere, and because of the damage that COVID-19 has caused worldwide, from an infrastructure standpoint, some of the funds, if the Olympics wouldn't be staged, could be directed in that direction as well. So there will always be an argument to support that, but the Olympics is such a huge investment that neither the IOC nor the organizers in Tokyo would want to give up on staging it very easily.
I get what you're saying and the amount of money that went into it, but when the money was pumped into the Olympics, COVID-19 wasn't even a thought. So, now the climate is different, and of course we have so many different things to consider. Well, joining us now, our track and field correspondent, Leighton Levy. He talks to us about his perspective on the numbers and what they mean. Leighton, welcome.
Hi guys, how are you doing? Lance, Maria, long time no see.
We're good. I'm glad you're getting the opportunity to see us now, Leighton. What do you think about this survey, though? Many are saying that, especially Japanese, that no Olympics, maybe we shouldn't have the Olympics.
Well, what Lance alluded to earlier is the concern in the country, because in itself, the incidence of infection are up significant. There have been major spikes in Tokyo, Osaka, and there are a couple of other Japanese cities that are actually having spikes right now. The broader issue as well is that you're looking at bringing in people from several other countries, most notably countries like Brazil and the United States, where the virus is currently out of control. Unless there's a vaccine that is going to be allow them to mitigate against the spread of the virus coming into Japan, I think it's a very valid concern. And I think given that they're going to spend about $700 million just to reposition the Olympics to next year from what it was supposed to be this summer, it probably would be prudent for them to start thinking about the possibility of canceling it, because notwithstanding the money that already been spent, will the world have the pandemic under control by next summer? That's a question that right now depends a lot on whether or not the United States and Brazil, two countries with significant populations and that are currently, infection rates in the world, whether or not they'll be able to get those infection rates under control by the time the Olympics roll around next year.
Yeah, one of the issues with Tokyo itself, Leighton, who are, as we know, the Olympic city hosts, they had lifted their curfews and a lot of the emergency plans that they had lifted them in May. And that is part of the reason why the numbers have been spiking for them in the past couple of months.
Yeah, they did, because they had it under control. But based on some literature that I read, I think it started, the new spikes started on a US Army base, funny enough. It has now spread into the wider population. And that's a concern, because one of the challenges that I think countries like Japan, and of course, indeed, countries like Jamaica that depend on tourism have with the United States is that they have this very peculiar outtake on whether or not they should wear masks, for example, that will limit the spread of the virus. And it has been contributing significantly to the spikes that we've seen in the US. So that's the situation that Tokyo faces right now, whether or not they can get the people coming in to do the things necessary to ensure that they will be safe if they manage to get the virus under control by the time next summer rolls around.
Yeah. Do you think what happened pre the 2020 original staging of the Olympic Games would have taught the IOC anything? Because their announcement to postpone the Tokyo Olympics from July 2020 didn't come until the 24th of March, which many considered very late, because to the average man in the street, it became reasonably obvious several weeks before that the Olympics could not have been staged. Do you see them waiting until March of next year to make a decision on the July 2021 Games?
Given the amount of money already spent on this land and the amount of money that will have been spent by March next year, I suspect that the same will obtain. I think when you look at what is happening, the new dates means that new arrangements would have to be made with the facilities that they are going to be using for the Olympics. And of course, monies would have to be paid to secure those venues, and of course, to ensure security measures, all the different elements, the logistics that go into making the Olympics successful. I'm sure that they're going to wait until the very last minute before they make a final decision on whether or not the Olympics should be canceled or not, because a lot has been invested, both by the Japanese government and of course by the IOC.
Leighton, I can't help but just pick up from the discussion that all we're talking about dollars and cents, money, investments. What about the athletes? Won't it be extremely unfair on in their part if the Tokyo Olympic organizers decide last minute to tell them, well, you know what, forget about it, we're canceling?
Of course. I mean, look, the athletes are the show here, huh? Regardless of the sport, they are the ones who make the Olympics work. But what we've seen so far in most of the countries who have had resurgence of spikes of the infection, their primary concern has always been financial. I think going into the Olympics, since they already decided that they're going to postpone the Olympics until next year, I think that is still going to be the primary concern, because the financial fallout from the IOC and of course from the country of Japan itself are going to be significant if these Olympics are not held. There is money that's going to have to be probably rebated to the broadcasters, the broadcast partners, and the supporting industries around that. Of course, with money that will already have been spent on the infrastructure that's going into place. I think the primary concern is still going to be about the finances. But however, they can't overlook the safety of the athletes, because without them, there are no Olympic Games. So that has to be a significant factor in any decision going forward as whether or not the Olympics are going to be postponed or not. You remember in March this year, I think they did a poll among athletes. I think almost 75% of the athletes decided that it would be in their best interest to cancel the Olympics. So already that's a factor that's in the back of many other minds of the athletes who are going to Tokyo next year. So that is a factor that they can't overlook, because it's going to be the primary factor going forward in terms of whether or not the athletes will be comfortable enough to go into Tokyo to compete.
Yeah, talking about athletes, Leighton, there was some action this past weekend in Kingston, Jamaica. Reigning Olympic sprint double champion Elaine Thompson clocked 11.19 seconds in winning the 100 meters at the Velocity Fest meet at Jamaica College on Saturday evening. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price posted 22.74 and Johan Blake 20.62 in winning the respective 200 meter titles. World champion Tajay Gale won the long jump with 8.13 meters. In the USA, defending Olympic shot put champion Ryan Krauser moved to joint third on the world all-time list with a throw of 22.91 meters at an American Track League Summer Series meet in Marietta, Georgia. He now sits alongside world champion Joe Kovacs and 1984 Olympic champion Alessandro Andri on the all-time list. Leighton, what are your thoughts on these performances and the fact that at least a lot of the athletes seem to be performing in pretty good competition form?
Well, you remember, these are athletes who have been preparing for the Olympic Games that would have been on just about now. So I'm thinking that they will be in peak shape. I mean, last week when Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price ran 11th flat, she ran into a minus 2.2 meter per second wind. That's like a 10.8 opening race for her. This is a woman coming off an outstanding performance in Doha last year. Elaine Thompson 11.19 into a minus 0.6 win. And people, you forgot to mention Julian Fort, who before today had the second fastest time in the world in the 100, 10.03 behind Sambini's 9.91. Michael Norman ran 9.86 today in Fort Worth, Texas, pushing him down to 3. So these performances, I think, are in line with several things. The fact that a lot of the athletes who were carrying injuries like Fort and Elaine Thompson are now healthy and they're in peak form. I mean, the fact that they're opening their seasons so late into the season because of the pandemic just only indicates just what kind of shape a lot of them are in. When you look at Tajay Gale jumped 8.52 last week, winded, but his wind legal jump 8.28 is among the best jumps in the world this year. We've had a number of performances. Johan Blake spoke to his coach a few weeks ago, and he says that he's getting back to the shape that we were accustomed to prior to 2014, the guy who ran 9.69 and 19.26. He says that his speed and strength endurance are getting back to those levels that made him such an outstanding athlete 6 years ago. So what we're seeing from the athletes is the kind of shape that they would have been going into, first of all, the national championships and then the Olympic Games to blaze the world, as they say sometimes, because they're in incredible shape. And a lot of these athletes are running for the very first time this season. It gives you an idea of just what kind of incredible shape they're in. It's been fantastic to behold.
Leighton, it's always easy to spot the top performers. Any one of the athletes that you follow look like they had any sort of rust?
Look, by convention, an athlete is going to need 5 to 7 races to get to peak form. What you're seeing so far from our athletes locally is the trending towards those forms. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price is 22.74, I think, is the third fastest 200 meter time in the world this year. Elaine Thompson is 11.19. You would think that after 3 or 4 more races, that they'd be even faster, much faster, given that they'd be running now, shedding the loads of course, of training and of course the weight work that they would have been doing in the background season, and then of course becoming a lot more fluid and race sharp. And of course, so what we're seeing from them is right in line with what you'd normally be expecting from them in a regular season, a season where there would where there be normal races without a pandemic.
Leighton Levy, as usual, great talking to you here on the SportsMax Zone, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, can I make one quick final point, guys?
Yes.
Meet today, of course, as I mentioned before, Brandon Williams ran 5 races. And people are wondering why Justin Gatlin also won 5 races. Norman himself won 5 races. The argument, the rumor is that Nike were planning to cut contracts based on stipulations in their contracts that would have them run 10 sanctioned races for the year. They're running races in between today and Thursday, which makes it interesting. If it turns out to be true, they're actually to preserve millions of dollars in their contract money.
Yeah, but as you just mentioned, that 9.86 by Norman would have been very impressive, wouldn't it, for a 100-meter sprint for him?
It would be the fastest time, it actually is the fastest time in the world this year. Other than the American who is now facing drug suspension. That's
Coleman.
one of the fastest.
Christian Coleman.
Yeah. They would be fastest time around the world the last 2 years.
Yes.
This is impressive for a 400-meter runner.
Yeah.
And he a very unique class of 2 of athletes who run sub 10 in the 100, sub 20 in the 200, and sub 44 in the 400. The other person, of course, being Wade Van Niekerk.
Again, Leighton, always great talking to you. Thanks for talking to us. Leighton Levy there giving us his views on the prospects of an Olympic Games in 2021, and just an update of some of the athletes who have been performing in recent days and getting themselves ready for a possible Olympic Games next year, even though it's far away.
And we know Leighton is somebody who's always in touch with the athletes. He always has all the top information. So, and he said something, he spoke about the financial aspect, Lance, of, ensuring that the Olympic continues. And, many people will be pushing that. A lot of money has been invested in the Olympics and they can't see them just, cancelling without putting up a fight.
Yeah, that's for sure. We go to break. When we come back, the second zone update. And don't forget, we still have more cricket to discuss. The review of the West Indies' second test defeat at the hands of England at Old Trafford today. Tina Best joining us in the next 10 minutes.